The Miami Dolphins season didn't come off the start that they had hoped, getting blown out on the road against the Daniel Jones-led Colts. And bad has turned to worse for the Miami Dolphins because Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, he is under NFL investigation for new domestic violence allegations. Head coach Mike McDaniel said, quote, "We've been in communication with the NFL and will let the process play out."
Tyreek Hill, he's got to go. I don't like being that guy, but I also don't like the many of allegations that have been tethered to him throughout his career, since before we knew who he was, back when he was an unknown prospect out of West Alabama. Tyreek Hill has got to go. Some of the allegations from his estranged ex-wife, who was only married to for 17 months, who divorced him in April, these are allegations that are coming out of the divorce filings. It's not like she's trying to squeeze money out of him. This is literally just her reasons for separating from Tyreek Hill. One of the things she listed out in the 8 counts that she lays out of him being domestically abusing her is him putting out a marijuana cigarette, is what it called it, on her forehead in the midst of berating her. Him spitting on her is one of them as well. He pulled a Jalen Carter on his own wife at the time. And then also him, again, all this is alleged by her through the court filings of their divorce hearing, him also hurting her while she was pregnant with their child. If those things are true, that is not a guy I would want in my locker room. That is not a guy I will be able to root for. Women and children. We as men on this earth, we're supposed to be protecting women and children, not putting them in danger. And if Tyreek Hill is accountable for any of that, he needs to be held accountable. To go as well. At what point do the Dolphins, who again, a lot of these things are alleged, Tyreek Hill must have the greatest legal team in the history of professional athletes. So a lot of these things don't fully work out, though we do know the NFL is investigating the most recent allegations. At what point do the Dolphins just say, hey, we're better without this guy in the locker room? He's not producing on the field, and he's a distraction off of it. Stay home.
Look, in theory, I'm with you, all right? Because obviously these things that you're talking about and referencing now that have come to light even recently about Tyreek Hill, he's a disaster off the field. Like morally, he's in the gutter. That's obvious, all right? But the part that makes me uncomfortable here is, while these allegations might be new, we've known who Tyreek Hill is. I mean, Theo, we're only bringing this up now because the Dolphins suck, all right? You know, when he almost caught for 2,000 yards a couple years ago, we knew he was a dirtbag then, but we're only caring now because, all right, there's only so much we were able to put up with. The team was good, so okay, I'll look past the abuse allegations, but now the team's terrible, you're paid a lot of money, and I got to root for a bad guy. Boy, I'd really like you to get out of here. So I feel like there's a hypocrisy coming from guys like us, where now we'd like to get rid of you. So I think it's important that we point that out.
Right.
But obviously, he represents my favorite team, and he's an embarrassment to my favorite team. And now we're shouting it from the rooftops that we don't want to root for that guy anymore, when I think it's also okay to point out that, you know what, that guy may also not be that great of a player anymore.
Right, that's the thing.
So if we want to get rid of him for those reasons, great. But if we're getting rid of him now because, we don't like the allegations and all that stuff, I feel like we come off a little bit hypocritical because, man, we were okay with it a few years ago.
So here's what I'll say, and this stuff dates back to college, right? Like the reason why he was no longer at Oklahoma State and had to go to West Alabama was because, that was the first time he had a pregnant woman saying that he was beating on her. So this is not new stuff. The difference, I would say, is excusing it over the past 4 or 5 years. I think that also came with a bit of a hope that he would change, that he would turn a new leaf and be a better person, right? At this point, though, not only has his game teetered off, but he's kind of been 10 toes down in some of the similar behaviors. So I think
it's fair.
People deserve a second chance, but at this point, he's on chance 9. And I'm like, okay, dude, you're not good at football. You continue to have women and children. They just keep on being put in harm's way somehow around you. And then sometimes you're strangers at a marina. Maybe we just part ways and we shake hands. Look at all the great college receivers right now. Look at all the young receivers around the NFL. He's a very replaceable player at the very least.
I think it's totally good most of the time with the second chances.
Yeah.
And I do believe, like, if the Dolphins were to fall to 0-2, because we know what's going to happen at
So
Buffalo
0
a
and
week
3.
from
Yeah.
tonight, I do think there's a very real chance that they do move on from Tyreek Hill. And I understand what the cap hit and the ramifications would be, but like, Dolphins are terrible. Who cares?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and but I think it's worth pointing out as well, or at least worth keeping an eye on what Kansas City does this weekend. Kansas City's hosting Philadelphia. I think the Eagles are going to beat them, which would mean the Chiefs fall to 0-2. So if the Chiefs are 0-2, and maybe it doesn't even matter if the Dolphins are 0-2, maybe the Chiefs, decide, hey, why don't we bring back Tyreek Hill? So I think it's something to keep an eye on.
It is. I'm curious, and I'm a Chiefs fan, and again, I am curious if they would, because they need a player like Tyreek Hill. I'm curious if they would actually spend to go get him, knowing what they're also purchasing around it, because they also had that guy in their locker room as well, and probably had to deal with covering up some stuff before he got sent off to the Miami Dolphins. So I don't know, man. That is a tough situation to be put in. But if you're Patrick Mahomes, you're like, hey, my wide receiver ones keep getting hurt. They keep
Yeah.
getting knocked out of